You're listening to Horsemanship, Growth, and Gratitude with Miranda and Horsemanship, where we discuss training wins and fails, mindset, personal growth, and everything in between. So grab your favorite cup of coffee or reins and let's ride. Hey there, it's Miranda Allen, and welcome back to Horsemanship, Growth, and Gratitude. Today's episode is all about one sentence that stopped me in my tracks and set off like a dozen light bulbs. One of those lines that makes you pause and rethink everything that you thought that you understood about behavior, whether it's your own, your kids, or especially your horses. And once I heard this conversation, I just couldn't let it go, and I knew that I needed to make an episode out of it. Now, this statement came from an interview off of the Mel Robbins podcast. Mel was interviewing Dr. Stuart Ablon. Now, Dr. Ablon is a psychologist who specializes in children. Now, I'm not going to get into too much detail about the interview other than I highly suggest that you give it a listen. What I did want to highlight was something in particular that Dr. Ablon said. He said, people do well when they can. Dr. Ablon went on to say that if somebody isn't doing well, it's because of a skill set issue. It's not because of a willpower issue. There's a problem underneath that's causing the behavioral issues. It's not going to be from a lack of willpower. Now, how many times have you seen somebody at school or work who is constantly being labeled as lazy or having a lack of willpower, but something deep down has told you that there's probably more going on behind the scenes and there's more to the story? But what really made the light bulb go off is when I started to think about our horses. How many times with horses do you find yourself thinking, well, they just did the best they could with what they were given? How many times do you see that their only downfall is that they just don't have the skill set that they need to be successful in horse owner lands because of said horse owners failing them? These poor horses are just doing their best that they can do with what they have been presented. You know those inconsistent riders that I'm talking about. I don't know how many times I've seen a horse and thought, man, that is a good looking horse. He's got a lot of potential, both physically and mentally, but he's just in the wrong hands. He's in inexperienced hands, or those hands don't know how to teach the skill sets that he needs in order to reach his fullest potential. So people just start labeling the horse as the one having a bad attitude or having a poor behavior, just being lazy, when in all actuality, he's just frustrated, confused, and given up by this point. It's at no fault to our own sometimes that we don't know everything. We're also just trying to do the best with what we have. I know firsthand that I was one of those kids who struggled often from school to gymnastics. I just remember feeling so frustrated that it seemed like nothing came natural to me. And I knew I was busting my butt 10 times harder than those other kids, just trying to keep up because that was just my competitive nature. And looking back, I can see where a lot of it, especially in school. Now, as far as gymnastics, it's just my body didn't bend like that. There was nothing we could do about that skill set. But for school, I can see where the teachers didn't have the right resources to help me learn in a way that made sense to me in my brain so that I could get the skill set that I needed in order to succeed in the classroom world. I'm not saying that just because you don't know 100% of what you're doing or you're extremely experienced with what you are doing with horses that you shouldn't give it a try. By all means, use your foundational knowledge and give it the best go and listen to what your horse's responses are and build it up from there. I see so many people who are constantly beating themselves up because they think that their horse could do so much better, like being a world champion, but because they're the owner, the horse is in their hands, they're the ones that have failed the horse because he's never going to be a world champion. Well, here's the thing. 99% of horses are not meant to be world champions. Let me repeat that. 99% of horses are not meant to be world champions. And honestly, a horse doesn't care if they compete or not. They just want food, fresh water, a safe place to sleep, and to be treated with respect. And did I mention food? I believe that our horse's true job is to actually be the next horse in our journey to teach us about love, life, and horsemanship. Looking back on my own horses that I've owned over the years, I can't help but think, man, I wish I knew then what I know now because things would be so different and for the better. But then I also have to stop and remind myself that the reason that I am who I am today is because of that horse that I had at that point in time in my life. If you find yourself at a point where you're working with your horse and you're starting to butt heads, get some bad reactions, and you realize that you're just not at that point where you just don't have that full skill set to help further your horse's training and education for his betterment and safely, just stop. It's not that hard. Just put him away. Just stop what you're doing, put him up, and find somebody who can help you because it's not worth the horse or you getting hurt. There is nothing wrong with admitting where your skill sets start and stop and that you need help past that line. Because if you don't stop and you keep pushing, all you're going to do is make the horse upset and to teach him a lot of bad habits in the process. And once you do then find somebody who's willing to work with your sour horse, because let's face it, a good trainer with open availability for one is hard to find. And for two, most of them are not going to want to work with a horse with bad habits because why would they when they can have a clean slate colt who is less likely to going to cause them issues and less likely to hurt them, right? Because they're going to get paid the same to work with either horse. They can't afford to get hurt, just like you can't afford to get hurt. Not only does that horse trainer have to eventually teach your horse the correct skill set that he needs in order to reach his full potential, but you also just set that horse and horse trainer back even further, costing you even more time and money because now that trainer also has to go back and undo all those bad habits first that you created before he can even teach him the new way. I'll never forget that moment when I truly learned the lesson of sometimes doing what's best for the horse involves getting off and asking somebody else for help. When I was doing my college internship at Annie Reynolds, she had a couple of other local professional rein cow horse trainers come over for the day to just get their colts out, bounce ideas off, and just have a good time. One of the other trainers had a young assistant rider around my age working with a young colt, and he was trying to get this horse to spin. After a few minutes, the assistant trainer stepped off and let the professional trainer hop on, help the horse out a little better, figure it out. And I remember asking that assistant, hey, why did you get off? Why didn't you just keep going and figure it out? Because you weren't doing that bad of a job. And I'll never forget what he said. He said, sometimes you have to set your ego and pride aside and do what's best for the horse. And in this case, his boss had a lot stronger of a skill set than he did on how to teach the horse how to properly spin. So the best thing for that horse in that moment was to step off and let somebody else teach it so that horse could continue to increase her confidence and not decrease it. The honesty and vulnerability in that statement was a slap in my face that I had a thing or two to learn about ego and horses. Now, mind you, I was 20 at the time, so it's no surprise that I was a little bit more cocky than I probably deserved to be. But in hindsight, that 20-year-old confidence is also what allowed me to ask for that dream internship in the first place. Since then, I found myself thinking back to that conversation quite often whenever I'm in a bind with a horse. And I feel like that lesson has really helped me to just slow down and think things through on a deeper level. Do I need to just be patient and wait on my horse to figure it out? Or do I need a different approach? Or is it going to be better if I find somebody else to ask for help? So the next time that you're in a position when you're struggling, just stop, evaluate the environment, evaluate your skill set, and just ask yourself, am I truly able to do what is needed right now? Do I have the skill set? Do I have the resources that I need? Or is it just going to be better in the long run for the horse to just ask for help and have somebody else do it? Now, on the flip side, here's where having this understanding can have its advantages to the trained eye. So if you're looking to purchase a horse, often you can find a diamond in the rough by realizing that certain horses may have more potential than they're currently displaying because they're just doing the best with what they have. Perhaps you can get more out of that horse that's for sale than the current owner. You have a stronger skill set than that current owner. Or you're not afraid to ask somebody for help through advancing with this new horse to get both of your skill sets stronger. There is nothing wrong with this. Just like there's nothing wrong with selling a horse to a home where you know that that new owner will have a stronger skill set than you and can help take your horse to the next level. I've done both. I have bought plenty of horses that I've added value to, and my best mare, I sold her to a home that I knew that could provide her a better quality of life than I could at that season of my life. And that was the best thing I could have ever done. And that brought me so much joy and fulfillment, being able to pass her along for somebody else to enjoy her to the fullest and who was able to give her the absolute best life ever that she truly deserved. The key here is to recognize when someone, whether it's you or your horse, would benefit from guidance or support. Your horse isn't giving you a hard time, he's having a hard time, and there's a difference. And just remember, when your horse struggles, it's not stubbornness, it's a skill that's just waiting to be taught. And the same goes for us. The next time things get tough, remember this. It's not a willpower issue, it's a skill problem. And the good news, skills can be taught. I believe that having this open mindset is going to allow you to more easily overcome what feels like a motivational issue you may face when your confidence is shaky. I know how frustrating it can feel when your horse isn't responding or when you're doubting your own skill set. But those moments aren't failures, they're learning opportunities. They're invitations to pause, observe, and approach the situation with curiosity instead of criticism. Growth doesn't happen when we push through blindly. It happens when we take a step back, identify what skills are needed, and commit to learning for both you and your horse. I hope this episode has helped you and encouraged you to know that you're not alone. Thanks for tuning in to Horsemanship, Growth, and Gratitude with Miranda Allen Horsemanship. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to follow the podcast and share it with friends who love horses as much as we do. And while you're at it, be sure to check out my website, mirandaallen.net. That's Allen, Allyn, to stay tuned on the launch of my upcoming online course, Essentials of Horsemanship. And until next time, remember, horsemanship is in the details.